All right, here we go. Episode 14 of Facing the Crowd.
Welcome back, everyone.
All right, today might be a shorter show, might not be. It's hard to really say. We didn't really have a ton of ideas, so today we're going to talk a little bit about. Well, we're gonna talk about the two newest Daredevil Born Again episodes, and then we're gonna talk about AI. Well, it might just become a complete ramble. We don't really know what's gonna go, but
Yeah,
we're gonna see how we're gonna try it. But first, Daredevil. So they released two episodes this week, and I think it's pretty obvious why they did that. It's because
yeah,
episode 5 was somehow the most filler episode of all time. That it like it, it felt like a complete insult to the show. I'm not saying it was a bad episode. Like it wasn't like an insultingly
yeah,
bad episode, but it was so absolutely unnecessary to the show that I'm actually kind of surprised they kept it even in. You'd think that they would possibly try to make it at least more interesting, or at least add maybe like a character development or something going on here. But instead, it's just absolutely really nothing happens at
right.
all. Like Matt is the only important character in this episode, and he doesn't really do anything special or out of the ordinary. It doesn't really develop at all, so it's completely pointless. Episode
Yeah,
6, on the other hand, I thought was one of
episode
the
6 was great.
one of the best episodes of Born Again thus far, because stuff actually happens in it, which is
Yeah, we
nice.
we talked a little bit more about Daredevil kind of as a whole show last week, so go
Hmm.
watch that if you'd like to hear our thoughts. But yeah, episode 5 was just dumb. I feel like it was the sort of episode that would have made sense in the context of some of the shows Marvel has made, but it just
Right.
doesn't fit in Daredevil, which has always had a very cohesive, fluid plot in every previous season. And suddenly we just have this episode where we have like a not cameo of everyone's least favorite superhero in conjunction with something that does nothing to forward the plot.
Right.
Like,
I meant like the crossover character you chose was Miss Marvel's dad. I,
to be
okay.
fair, I'm glad it was Miss Marvel's dad rather than Miss Marvel herself. But yeah, it didn't make sense. It was so uncalled
it's
for.
yeah, it really didn't. It didn't make much. Like, I mean, like I don't remember anything about Miss Marvel. I watched that show and then forgot like everything about it. Um,
I think I
but
gave up like 3 episodes in.
I think. I mean, I probably wasn't even paying attention watching it through the first time because it just. Although it is, I think I think the highest rated MCU TV show on Rotten Tomatoes.
By
For
the
the critic score,
critics,
which is
so
interesting.
yeah, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
That doesn't count. That
But yeah.
second episode they came out with, though, was it episode 6?
What?
Was episode 6 the second of the 2 episodes they came out with?
Yeah. Yes. Episodes 5
I
and
thought
6 came
that
out this week.
was I thought episode 6 was great. Like we finally actually got to see Muse Daredevil finally put the suit back on.
Hmm.
And just like the vibe of it was fantastic. That part where
Hmm.
he was like doing CPR on the girl and they had like the voiceover of him saying the prayer. That hit kind of hard. That was a great
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah. I thought that was good as well. I liked. I really like that they haven't completely removed the spiritual aspects. I know that was there was one
Yeah.
viral post that made people a little bit worried, and obviously it's less front and center than it was at the Netflix show. I think that it's nice that they still have touches of it here and there, just so that they aren't afraid of that aspect of Matt as a character.
hmm I also really appreciated the scene where they kind of showed like the conflict between him and his girlfriend when she was like asking him the questions about reviewing the different vigilantes, not knowing that he was one, and just kind
Hmm.
of how that impacted him. I thought that was a good scene. Like, it was just a really well done episode on the one hand, and
Yeah,
it also was kind of a return to the Daredevil of Netflix, which I really loved.
right. Yeah, I feel like it's kind of wild that like we're 2/3 of the way through this season. It's 9 episodes, which I think is a weird choice to just shrink it. They should have just kept it the same length as the Netflix show, I feel like.
Yeah.
Um, although season 2 is already confirmed, so how that's gonna work. I would like to have a mostly resolved season, but my guess is I wouldn't be surprised if this is more of a part one, part two type of thing with
That's what I
these two
would
seasons.
expect. I
Um,
mean, it doesn't feel like we've
like I have a
made
feeling,
any progress at all towards
yeah,
solving like the problem.
right. I feel like we're just gonna get like Muse for this season, and then we're gonna actually focus more on Fisk in season 2 and
Probably.
taking him down, exposing him, whatever you want to say. That's my guess.
I think that's probably reasonable.
Yeah, but I don't. It's like he's worn the suit in what episode 1 briefly, like
Yeah.
right, yeah, and then now Justin at the end of this in episode 6, which I mean that's 2/3 of the season. He's barely worn the suit. Now, granted, I will say is that I do really like the parts of the show where he's not wearing the suit. Some of my favorite
Mhm.
moments of both the Netflix show and this show don't require the suit to be on. And in some cases, like in season 2, I feel like everything not with the suit is actually a little bit more interesting
Yeah, definitely.
um, for the character work. But at the same time, like the Daredevil is such an important aspect of like Matt's character. It is like obviously like the discussion with his girlfriend about some of that stuff about like wearing the mask. Is that like who you truly are or something? I can't remember exactly how the dialogue went, but I thought that was interesting to show, and clearly that was part of something that kind of tipped him over the edge to actually put the suit back on.
Yeah, and to Disney's credit, I think they are kind of appreciating kind of the underlying internal conflict we've seen in Matt throughout like all of the Daredevil series, because there's always been this aspect to his character where like he doesn't want to hurt people, he just wants justice to be done, and yet at the same time he clearly also has this desire for that justice to be brutal and vengeful. And I like that we're seeing that aspect of him continue to be explored in the Netflix show.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I mean, like having a filler episode in a 9 episode series does feel a little bit strange because obviously, like the longer seasons in the Netflix show seem to have much more value to each episode. I mean, like not necessarily every episode
Yeah.
a ton of stuff happens, sure, fine, but like not as much of this like like the most basic of filler episodes that you can get, which is what episode 5 was, in my opinion.
It was
But
really short too.
it felt so out of place, and I feel like I thought I saw something from like the writer or someone working on the show, and he's just like, this is the only episode that was not changed after they had like a creative overhaul of the
That
show,
makes a lot of sense.
which makes I think puts into perspective. But at the same time, it feels like why did you even keep this episode at all? Like it honestly like would have made more sense just to like make it an 8 episode series and just cut this episode out.
Yeah, definitely.
It feels like such a strange choice, and it really did feel out of place. And I mean, if the entire show was at one point like episode 5, then it probably would not be doing, probably would not be as good.
Mhm.
But I mean, even then, we don't really know what the original show would have looked like or how much creative overhaul actually was done to get this out. I think obviously we know that there was a point when Bernthal was not going to come back as the Punisher because he didn't like the script. There was a time when Karen and Foggy were not in the show. Of course, they came back for like 1 episode and then probably just used as
Yeah.
bait and switch, which I didn't really like, but whatever.
I I kind of hope, and I don't think this will happen, but I hope that they will actually bring Karen back in, maybe in like season 5, because like if you want to kill off Foggy, like fine, it makes sense
Mhm.
why he's not in the show. But for Karen to still be like alive and just not relevant is just really weird.
Yeah, it does feel quite strange, and I think that it kind of just shows that they didn't do a complete restructuring of the show. It's just a creative overhaul, so they probably just threw them in at the beginning just to have
Mhm.
them there, to like at least make it feel more natural between the Netflix show and this one.
Yeah, that could be it.
Yeah, I don't really know. Of course, it's just another Disney project where they have to make changes through it.
Yep. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and I don't really know the extent of those changes. Probably not to like Captain America 4 level changes, but
It is impressive
yeah,
that they've made changes and still have come out with more or less a coherent, fairly well done show.
yeah.
Anyway, do we want to start talking about AI
I
now?
don't know. I think so. I so on the topic of Marvel, they released
Yeah.
the cast for Avengers Doomsday, or at least part of the cast. It seems to be. Let's see if this picture will work. Nope, that's not right. Let me do this. Okay, here we go. So this is basically the cast that was revealed. Of course,
Ethan?
the big reveal is the amount of old X-Men characters being back, which to me just seems like more nostalgia bait and desperation to get people into the seats for the theater, because this movie's going to probably cost a fortune. So
Mhm.
they really can't have this one fail. Um, but yeah, I mean, even then though, if you take away like the surprising like X-Men characters, like the rest of the cast, it's not super interesting. Like who like compared to like your Endgame roster. Like
Yeah,
obviously you have RDJ as Doctor Doom, which is such like a strange casting choice. I don't know. I mean, they probably just did it just for the bait, um,
probably.
to get people in. You have Thor, or what's left of Thor after Love and Thunder. Loki's going to be interesting. How he'll play a role.
I don't
Um,
understand how Loki's going to play a role in this show.
I mean,
Kind of has
unless
me
like
worried, honestly.
yeah. I mean, I feel like they've got to play, because I feel like Doomsday's like it's going to deal with the whole multiverse thing, and Loki as um after his what do you want to call it, ascension in Loki season
Sure.
2, um to what do you want to call it, God of the multiverse, whatever you want to call it. I think
Yeah,
that he might play a role, but like I feel like that'd be like a climax sort of thing. So I don't expect it to be more than like a cameo. I mean,
okay.
like there's enough character. I don't know. It's hard to say. Paul Rudd, Ant
Ant-Man.
Man. Okay, Shang Chi. Great. That's great. We have the
Fantastic
Fantastic
Four.
Four, which
It's kind of interesting that they're in there before we've even seen if the Fantastic Four movie is going to
right,
be received or not.
right, and I mean, I'm still somewhat hesitant about the casting calls, especially Pedro Pascal.
Mhm.
But of course, that remains to be seen how that movie will even do.
Right.
Much less if it's actually good or not.
Hmm.
Um, and then you have the Thunderbolts. You know, the Thunderbolts from the movie coming out. The Thunderbolts in May. I think
Yeah.
it's May. Um,
That may.
I think it is. Yeah,
Maybe we
there's
should go and
three.
see that and report on it or something.
I I actually might see that one in theaters.
Yeah, it might be worth it.
Just for Century. Even though they'll probably I don't know. If you're like you're gonna have a hard time convincing me that the Thunderbolts go up against Century and don't all die. Uh, but it seems like Taskmaster seems to be the only Thunderbolt that's pretty much confirmed to die, just because they've barely shown up in the trailers. But
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know. Yes, like there's not like most of these characters aren't going to get people excited enough to go to this movie. I just don't feel they just
Yeah,
don't have the draw. And of course, these ones are reported. These aren't confirmed castings. These have been reported, and I would expect Strange maybe to be in it.
I would think
Chris Evans will
so.
probably be a cameo. Tom Holland, of course, who knows if Sony will let that happen or not. They probably will, but um, yeah, I don't know. It's like they're grasping at straws. They have to get people into the theater for this movie, and it has to be massively successful. But I just don't think that they're going to be able to do damage control fast enough to make this successful.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Like Danny
It's a really
Ramirez,
long shot.
the new Falcon. Like no one's going to go to the movie because of him.
No, not a chance.
Like it, it it's so Channing Tatum's Gambit, of course, is included because I don't know it's just gonna be it's a nightmare already through and through. I'm not convinced at all that it's going to succeed how they want to.
Yeah,
It's
Marvel's been kind of
like,
a nightmare for years at this
right.
point. I don't see it getting resurrected.
Yeah. Anyways, let's go on to AI here.
All right.
We're just gonna have just a general like
So
discussion about it, like all topics about it or whatever.
I've been thinking about AI recently because I had to write this paper for a class I'm in, and at the end of the paper, I had to write a statement on AI, which was meant to say basically, I didn't cheat on the paper by using AI, but I kind of turned it into like a manifesto about why AI is bad. So I can share that if you would
Uh-huh.
like.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, let me see if I can throw it up here.
I mean, like it's obviously. I think the main concern with AI is on the stealing of work from like actual practiced artists, stealing
Yeah,
like basically removing their work. Of course, you also have other concerns like the academic side of it. Um,
I have a
all
little
right,
bit
so
of
here
a
we go.
different
Here
take.
is your statement of AI.
Statement on AI. Being fully convinced that artificial intelligence, AI, not only provides information of questionable accuracy and is unable to produce writing that is sufficiently eloquent and academic, but is also a travesty against the honorable collection of human literature which it consumes and defiles by pretending that it can understand and synthesize that which is by nature only understandable to men and women created in the image of God, and God Himself who knows and understands all. I did not use AI in any capacity in the brainstorming, researching, or writing of this paper.
Mhm.
That last part is the part I was supposed to say. The rest of it was me being
I mean, I think that'll.
pretentious.
I don't think your professor's gonna really care that you added the rest. They might enjoy it actually.
Maybe so, yeah.
Yeah, and the academic side, like the academic side, is very interesting because AI is getting to the point where, at least for lower level, like high school, middle school level reading, you might actually be able to submit a fully AI generated paper and it would be passable. But interestingly, and I know my sister, who's in high school right now, had an issue where um, using like AI tracking tools or whatever tools that teachers can use to determine if something was AI generated actually made her completely original non AI generated paper show up as a large portion of it generated by AI, which of course either means that AI is actually developed to the point where it can be more easily disguised, or AI tracking tools have gotten significant or not. up to speed with new AI stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's hard to say, and I think that like there will probably be a point if we're not already there where it's going to be very difficult to distinguish between the two, even for like platforms specifically made for that purpose. Just as it
Mhm.
gets improved and better. Of course, it doesn't. It's gonna honestly, it's gonna be like a horror story for teachers, especially at the for those younger kids who will probably, in a lot of cases, just go straight to the AI, and then maybe if they're smart,
Yeah.
they'll change a few things to try and disguise it, and it like
I
if
will
you have a
admit that
more convenient, yeah, go ahead.
I haven't used AI in quite a while at this point because I've been very intentionally avoiding it, but I always felt like when I did use ChatGPT, it had a writing style that was so generic that it was
Yeah.
distinctive. Like you could tell if something came from ChatGPT because reading it just made you felt like going to sleep. It was like that uninteresting
Uh-huh.
in how it expressed itself.
Sure.
Like maybe it's gotten better since then, but like at the end of the day, I don't really know how you would create like a computer program to discover the generic writing of AI. I feel like that's the
Right.
thing you have to look at as a human and see like this is
Right, and
generic. It's
that is
AI.
the problem, is that a lot of those programs are it themselves AI,
Yeah.
AI trying to track AI, um, and I feel like it's had some success in the past, but with how quickly AI is developing, I think that it's unable to keep up in a lot of sense. And yeah, I think that it is going to probably require that human side to at least make come to some sort of conclusion, whether it's a legitimate AI, false positive, false negative type stuff like that.
Hmm. Definitely.
Yeah. What I mean, right now, it seems that the image generation AI has been the most front and center of the debate at the moment,
Hmm.
just because of the whole Studio Ghibli trend. People are basically recreating any image in that particular animation style or drawing style, much to the dislike of a large group of people. And even some people participating in the trend probably just very strongly dislike it. They're just doing it to make a point or something like that.
Right.
Um, but I think this post, which obviously we showed on that I showed you. Let me switch this quick. Do this. So this post I think kind of shows that AI likely will never be able to match human capabilities or human creativity, I think is the key
Mhm.
word for artistic. So this is an art piece made from a coffee spill, coffee stain, which yeah, like this level of AI is nowhere near this level of comprehension or creativity. Will
Yeah,
it ever get to that? I mean, I could certainly try to simulate something like this, but I don't think it'll ever be able to reach this extent of it. Um,
yeah, I really doubt it.
um, of course, like it's difficult to determine the extent of AI in general. Like, can we ever get to a point where it is completely has an effective artificial conscience, independent from any type of input? I think that's kind of unlikely.
Yeah, I really doubt it.
I don't think we'll get to Terminator levels, ever.
Probably not.
Probably not. Probably not iRobot level. All those sci-fi movies with artificial intelligence stuff. I just think
Yeah.
those are quite unrealistic, at least for a very very long time.
I tend to argue against AI for like not for the reasons I typically see people complaining against AI because I feel like you
Hmm.
typically see people saying like, well, AI is taking people's jobs and like okay, that may be true, but like whenever a new technology has come along, it takes people's jobs. And if the new technology really can like do the thing better than the people, then
Right.
it's going to take their job sooner or later anyways. So
Mhm.
I don't think that's a problem with AI.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to note. Um, although it it could potentially be exponentially more significant than other technological advances,
Sure.
just because of its capabilities to be utilized in a wide variety of fields. But I think
That could
I do
be.
agree with your point generally speaking.
And then I feel like you have the argument that like AI is bad because it steals people's work. And that's kind of my argument, but not exactly. Like that's a reason AI is bad, but it's not the reason I ultimately reject the use of it.
Mhm. Yeah. What is the reason you ultimately reject it?
So it's kind of like a literature slash philosophy slash theology reason, I guess.
Okay.
So my understanding of what AI does is that it basically takes, and I should specify that I'm speaking specifically of generative AI here, the kind of AI that will like write you an essay or spit out a
Mhm.
picture at you when you tell it to. What that kind of AI does is that it takes basically everything that humans have written, it boils it down to like the simplest possible form, does its best to synthesize that information, and then spits it back out at you. So,
Mhm.
what's happening is AI is taking things that humans have created very intentionally and put a lot of emotion into, things that were meant to be experienced by humans. And then what AI does is it says, okay, I'm going to take this thing created by a human being in the image of God, this thing that defines what it means to be a human being. And then AI, I'm going to boil this thing down to the simplest possible conception of it, take out any and all emotional connection that a person might have with it. And in doing so, basically defile it. Like it's destroying art, essentially.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying there. I think that bringing in the theological perspective is sort of important, although
Yeah.
obviously the world is not going to necessarily do so. But I think even then, like that argument could be utilized with secular language to make the same point.
Right. Like, I think even atheists would affirm that there's something special about being human. Like, we're not the
Mhm.
same as rocks or plants or even animals. We're different. We're better than all of those things in some way. And
Right.
AI is not special in the same way we are. And in pretending that it is special in that way and that it can understand these very profound, emotional, sacred works of art, it's doing damage to not just those works of art, but it's stealing, but also our conception of art as a whole. And in doing so, it's making us appreciate less what it means to be created in the image of God.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. That was very well said, I think. Um, I guess like from my experience with AI, I had one of my programming classes. One of my professors actually had us utilize AI. We had to utilize AI to write a
Mhm.
paper, and I think the point was to showcase the inaccuracies within it. Um, at least I feel like that was the point. Like, and we had to. I think it was something like 50-50. You had to do like half of it with AI, and then other half with you, and then the point is, I guess, just to showcase the difference or something like that for the
Yeah.
exercise. So that was kind of interesting, but also I did utilize it a little bit for a couple programming projects because AI can like ChatGPT can write code,
Mhm.
just like it can write essays. And since code is like a simplified language compared to English, I think it's slightly better at it.
Sure.
Though one of the languages I was using was fairly niche, so it wasn't too much help with that. And obviously there's still loads of bugs within that had to get to it. But and I did utilize it for that, and at least for me, I don't really feel too guilty for using that because it is essentially just utilizing research. I probably could have found a
Yeah.
similar thing, um, like if I just go on like some sort of programming forum to find that. And of course, I use those forums as well during this project. Coding is definitely a very slow process. There's a lot of internet surfing to try and find an answer. And I guess in some ways, I utilize it to possibly expedite some problems that I had, or at least give me maybe a jumping off point for writing code. And I think that like the kind of like at least for me, I feel like there is to a certain extent, you can utilize AI in a way that isn't completely destructive. I mean, even like simpler AI, such as like spell check, something like that, is could be considered an AI or a very primitive one. And like obviously, uh, the modern world's grown very accustomed to spell check, autocorrect, stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, and so like like some of it isn't necessarily like destructive to society or extremely harmful like that, which is
Right.
where the issue gets a little bit less black and white.
Yeah, that's why I specified like generative AI is what I
Right.
have the problem with. So if you're like, I have no problem with like spell check or anything, obviously, nor would I
Right.
object to AI being used to write code or to aid in writing code because like you said, that's kind of just research
Hmm.
applied. Whereas when
Right.
you're using AI to like generate a picture or an essay or a story, that actually feels to me like it's doing
Hmm.
substantial damage to something.
Right. But like even then, like I think that there's appropriate uses where like maybe you have a little bit of a slump and you need a couple of ideas to maybe start a new paragraph or something like that. I don't think there's too much harm in using for brainstorming purposes. But if you're going to start then just copy pasting what it's saying, I think that's where the problem starts to come in.
I
Maybe.
wouldn't even use it for that purpose,
Hmm.
honestly. Like
I probably wouldn't
I'm
either.
very strongly anti AI, so I understand why people would use it for that. And like I
Hmm.
don't want to be like the anti AI police here or something,
Yeah.
but I do
I think
genuinely
I
think it is harmful.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I did that once for one essay where I just was, like, struggling to get started,
Hmm.
um, and that was able to give me, like, a starting sentence, which is sometimes all you really need, and I think even then I probably, rewrote it or rephrased it, something like that,
Right.
but yeah, I generally I have not used AI, and obviously I graduated, so I don't really need it for that purpose, but I haven't really
Hmm.
used it too much outside of that because I do not want to become dependent on it for anything.
Yeah, definitely not.
But I think that's going to be I'm kind of curious to see if the younger generation that grows up with this technology is going to become very dependent on it. Um, 'Cause I think that could be a concern for society's future.
Yeah, I would expect AI use to increase
Hmm.
exponentially
Hmm.
as time goes on. Like it's already way, way more popular than it should be. And like we have kids who are growing up with this stuff now. I'm sure it's going to
Right.
be ubiquitous in a couple
Hmm.
years.
Yeah. So hooray for the future. Looks very
Yeah.
bright. And like there's also like the concern of bias within AI. There's been numerous documented incidents where an AI seems to be biased in one political direction or another. I
Yup.
think I can't necessarily say with definitively that this is intentional on the programmer's part. I don't think it might be, it might not be. It's hard to say. Obviously, AI chatbots that exist today are still bound within certain rules. Like you can't ask AI how to make a bomb. It won't
Generally,
respond to
though,
that.
you can get around the rules pretty easily.
Yeah, that's true. They're not super not super exact rules, but there are some boundaries that are placed within by the programmers, and that potentially some of those boundaries could include political bias or other forms of
Yeah.
biases. And I think that there seems to be a general movement away from censorship on the internet, and I think that that could lead to less of that seen on AIs.
Sure.
Though it's hard to say for certain. And I think that's a very small issue when it comes to the issue of AI in general. But I figured I'd mention it.
Yeah, that it's worth mentioning for sure.
Mhm. All right. Is there anything else that we want to talk about with this?
I kind of said my bit about AI. I don't have anything else on
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, I've been limiting my Twitter usage, so I've had less stuff prepared for this week. So hopefully I can find more. But I mean, I think I've liked too many memes that I'm mostly just seeing memes and not actual valuable content to jump off of. But
That's really easy to do.
very easy to do. Although I will say is my Twitter feed has gotten a lot less of a political echo chamber, which I actually kind of blame the what do you want, the daily routine video. I liked a lot of tweets from people commenting on that that probably were much more left leaning. So I'm getting a lot more content from the, which I kind of like.
Yeah,
Um,
that's probably helpful.
it's probably helpful, yeah. Although sometimes it's kind of just like, okay, where's the valuable content? Where's the good takes? Oh,
Right.
it's just memes. Um, yeah. Anyways,
Do we have any other topic we kind of just want to randomly
I
throw
don't
in,
know.
or
Let's see.
just have like a shorter episode?
I mean, I have this post. Um, this is discussing the woke right, and I feel like this might be better in its own episode to discuss, but we can discuss it here if you want.
Okay, we
Or
can
we
talk
could.
about it if you want. I
I
know
don't
we
know.
talked about discussing that one
I'd rather
last week
save
and
it.
then passed it
Yeah,
over. Okay, we can save it then.
we'll save that. Let me see if there's anything here quickly. Um, uh, and where are those graphs? I can't find the graphs anymore.
We've kind
Um,
of talked about something like those graphs before, though. Honestly,
that's true. That's true. Um, what the heck? Okay. Anyways, yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't really know if there's anything super quick to find with this. Uh,
maybe just call it a night then and
I
have
think
a
we'll just have
shorter
to call it a
episode.
night. Kind of a slow end, but
No, that's okay.
oh, the Minecraft movie is next week. Get hyped.
Oh, yay!
Oh
Are you
no,
gonna go see it?
I'm not paying for a ticket, but if if a
Good
friend wants me to
answer.
go and wants to pay for the ticket, then I'll go. Sure. I'm very curious to see if we have like a Rise of Gru situation here where the memes just become too strong and it becomes unnecessarily successful.
That
Um,
could be.
yeah.
I will not be going, obviously. I've never played
Right.
Minecraft, and I don't intend to watch the Brain Rot movie about it.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I'm so excited for the internet to get a hold of it. It's gonna be
Yeah.
great. It's gonna be phenomenal. The memes, I'm sure, will be great, and not like the memes could be great, but for every good meme, there's gonna be a new brain rot term. So,
Yep, exactly.
yeah. Anyways, yeah, that's all for this episode. We'll see you in episode 15.
Thanks for watching, guys.